Hello, everyone. Welcome to the TriStar Gym channel. Today's episode, I'm really looking forward to this episode. Khabib versus Tony Ferguson. This is going to be an epic battle. It's a fight I'm really looking forward to. So many great questions, so many things to consider about this fight. This is a very important fight. The lightweight division, I think, will be stirred up heavily after this weekend. Whoever wins this fight is going to be the interim champion and probably very likely face Conor McGregor after that. And it just makes for an epic shuffling of the deck. After this weekend, the deck will be shuffled in such an interesting way. I think the lightweight division right now is my favorite division. It's the most exciting division in UFC, and I really looking forward to this fight because on one side we have Khabib. Khabib. I won't even try to say his last name. Okay, Khabib is 24-0, taking on Tony Ferguson, who has been on a vicious tear. I mean, he's just been beating guys in such an incredible fashion, and I have no idea what's going to happen in this fight. This is such a difficult fight to call. Of course, I'll get into detail on the fight in this video. But I just want to tell you guys that this is a fight you don't want to miss. And of course, I have nothing to do with promoting this fight. That doesn't concern me whatsoever. But this is an epic battle for the hardcore fans. Maybe you don't know. Maybe the casual fan doesn't know these two names as well as they know more famous names. But these two guys stepping into the octagon is an epic battle. I would liken it to Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, George St. Pierre, BJ Penn. I mean, it's such an epic battle. It's up there with one of the most important fights in UFC. And there's been some controversy also around this fight. Khabib called it the most important fight in lightweight history. I don't know if I agree with that. I won't say that I do agree with that, but it's up there. It really is up there. There's been so many other colossal fights, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint this one as being the greatest lightweight fight of all time, of course. But it is an epic fight. For those of you who know fighting, those of you who've been following the sport and know these two fighters, this is one of those pound for pound bests. The two guys who are they would be on my pound for pound list of best fighters, and it's not a fight to miss. The hardcore fans will be watching. It is such an epic battle. Before I get this episode started, I want to thank our sponsors. First sponsor is TimTam.tech. TimTam.tech makes the world's best deep tissue therapy device. If you've never tried one of these devices, get one. It is the best. TimTam makes the best deep tissue therapy device in the world. It'll destroy any knot you have in your body. Okay, so if you got a tight shoulder or tight legs like me, I got tight legs. I use it a lot on my legs. It is unbelievable. Once you try it, it'll blow your mind. You'll be like, what was I doing before this thing? So check out timtam.tech and pick up one of the deep tissue therapy devices. Next up is defensetech.co. Defensetech.co makes everything that's defense, everything concerns with defense, from pepper spray to hidden cameras to tasers to all sorts of crazy stuff. Okay, survival gear, etc. Check out this website. It has a lot of cool stuff, different type of knives, hidden knives, all sorts of incredible cool gadgets. Check it out. For those of you living in Canada, you might be very well surprised to hear that you're like I was. You're not allowed to order pepper spray. You're not allowed to have pepper spray. So you can order knives and stuff like that, but no pepper spray for you. For those of you living in the States, you can pretty much buy, I think it's 50 states who can pretty much buy anything on the site. So if you try to buy something that you're not allowed in your country, defensetech.co actually won't allow you. It'll send you a letter saying you can't buy this product. So it won't go through. So if the product is not going through, it's because you're not allowed to buy it in your area. Okay, so check out the site. Make sure you pick up something. And they sell anything from batons to flashlights with tasers on them. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. Amazing, cool gadgets. Also, I want to thank xpn.com, xpnworld.com. XPN makes some of the best nutritional supplements out there on the market, and they're tested. Their products are all tested by a third party, so no worrying about contamination in your supplements. No more excuses. I don't want to hear anybody say anymore that they failed a drug test because of a contaminated substance. Now that this trend has gone through, make sure that all your supplements are tested. Make sure that they're all certified supplements. I also want to thank Reebok, of course. Reebok always been sponsoring this channel for a very long time. So thank you all our sponsors for this great opportunity to make all this content. And I want to start with the first comment or question. Oh, 1 second. Okay, here it is. This one's from Nathan Fenner. Nathan Fenner asks, do you think Khabib's grappling will negate Tony's 10th planet BJJ? I've rolled with a lot of 10 planet BJJ guys. Okay, so I like the techniques. I personally don't use the rubber guard because I don't have that type of flexibility. And I do mobility work. I do a lot of mobility work, and I have some good flexibility. I mean, I can get into rubber guard, but I just don't feel that my body moves that way, and I'm strong in that way. Now, I've been in rubber guards where I've felt like, wow, this is really, really tight, and I've actually had Eddie put his rubber guard on me once upon a time where we were kind of trading techniques, and he was showing me his rubber guard, and I felt it was really, really tight. Now, the first few times you get caught in rubber guard, it could be very confusing. If you don't know how to defend rubber guard, you will get crushed by rubber guard. Rubber guard is like every other guard, in my opinion. You got to understand what the dangers are. You got to understand how it works. And if you know how to defend it well, you can protect yourself from rubber guard and force the guy on the bottom to go to another guard. And I believe all guards are good. But I also believe that all the guards have to work together, So if I put you in my De La Riva guard and you behave in a way that breaks my De La Riva, I'm going to flow into another guard. Or I'm going to re-pummel to inside or outside De La Riva, etc. So it all comes down to, does Khabib understand the rubber guard? If he doesn't, it could be a nightmare. If he does understand the rubber guard, he can get away with forcing Ferguson to go to another guard. Now, I've had a few guys who fought guys who do rubber guard. Like, for instance, I had Mike Ritchie fight George Soteropoulos, and he tried to put Mike Ritchie in a rubber guard. And we had drilled how to defend against the rubber guard. If he tries it, shut it down in this one way. And, of course, it worked. It worked. It was forcing George Soteropoulos to go to another guard. And that's what the name of the game is. I don't believe there is one perfect guard. I really like a variety of guards. So I think if you're playing rubber guard, you got to have some close guard. You got to have some inverted guard, just a little bit, so that you can funnel yourself back into rubber guard, etc. You got to have at least some shin to shin guard, if the guy's standing up, etc. So you got to have a variety of guards and make them work together. Does Khabib understand rubber guard? I have no idea. I've never actually rolled with Khabib. Now, I've been in the same practice room with Khabib. Once upon a time, I was training at Henzo's and he was there. I was working with Eddie Cummings on one side. He was working with another group of guys on another side. And I would have loved to roll with him. It just didn't pan out that way. However, I did get a good look at him, and he knows his grappling. He's a phenomenal grappler. Obviously, needless to say, Khabib is a dangerous, dangerous grappler. But I didn't see anybody put him in rubber guard. So I don't know if he's seen it very much. I've been rolling for a long, long time, and I haven't seen that much rubber guard also. So I think it's out there, but it's not many people who do it at a high level. So, if you have a purple belt doing rubber guard on you, it's very different, I imagine, than if a black belt does it on you. So has Khabib been in a rubber guard by a practitioner who's an elite rubber guard guy like Tony Ferguson? I don't know. But if he hasn't, it could be very, very, very surprising and very dangerous. So the rubber guard is a dangerous thing, especially if you don't understand how it works. Now, when I did spend some time in the same practice room with Khabib, one thing that I noticed is he has incredible base. His base, obviously, it's not difficult to imagine, right? But you could tell he's a very strong, heavy top game guy. We've seen him in his fights. Can Tony sweep him? Can Tony get something going on a guy who understands stability so well? It's a tall order. I would say it's a tall order. So that would be my best guess. But again, I haven't rolled with Khabib, so it's very, very hard for me to say. This one is from Screenplayer. How can Khabib win if he fails to get the takedown, and how can Tony win if he gets the takedown? Well, I think if Tony gets down, he's got to get up to his feet. I think there's 5 rounds, and I don't think tying up the rubber guard after it gets very sweaty is a good idea. Early on, if he's dry and he gets taken down, and Tony feels he's dry, I think rubber guard is a great option. Once things get very, very slippery, though, I find rubber guard is hard to do. I've seen it. One thing I've noticed training over the years is training with a shirt on and training with a shirt off is so different. It's crazy. It's really, really a huge difference. And, a lot of rubber guard guys wear spats or whatever, and that makes a monstrous, monstrous difference. Try one time for fun when you're rolling in jiu-jitsu. Take off your shirts and roll. And just be in shorts and roll. And you'll get an idea of what it's like to be in a UFC fight. It's way slippery. It's crazy slippery. Try to do your rubber guard without your opponent having a shirt on or having spats on. It just doesn't work as well. So if Tony Ferguson feels things are getting slippery, I think he should personally just get back up to his feet. Don't mess around too much with the guard. Just get back up. And he's very good at getting back up. He's proved time and time again that he's very good at getting back up. If Khabib cannot get it to the ground, which is going to happen. You know, Tony Ferguson's not going to go to the ground for free. He's going to miss takedowns. I think he needs to use that powerful underhook he has, because if you guys know, Khabib's got a very, very strong, powerful underhook. In his second round against Michael Johnson, he missed a shot. He raised his underhook really, really high and drove. This is a very European style of wrestling. And in the U.S. they do it, but not as much as in Europe. In Europe, the European wrestlers, when they miss a shot, they come up to that underhook and they hike that underhook up really, 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 really high. And that powerful underhook will drive you to the fence. And from the fence there, you can lock up. And when he did it to Michael Johnson actually jumped a guillotine, which I thought was a mistake. Because he had successfully sprawled Khabib twice in that round. And grabbing that guillotine was kind of doing Khabib a favor, because it brought the fight down to the ground. But I think if Khabib does miss a takedown, I think he's gonna do what he's trained to do. He's gonna raise that underhook up really high. He's gonna jack it up, and he's gonna bring Tony to the fence, and he's gonna just try to maul Tony. He's going to keep him up against the fence. He's going to grind them out. He's going to keep working the takedowns off the fence. He's got phenomenal judo, of course, his trips. We saw Khabib do a beautiful haragoshi, or I think it was a taiotoshi, to RDA. I mean, he just launched him with it. And again, he did it with that powerful underhook that he has. Don't forget, Khabib's father is a judo expert. He's a national judo coach, I believe. I can't remember if he was is he a national champion or national judo coach? Anyways, I've been in the practice room, and I've seen Khabib's dad. I've actually talked to him quite a bit, and I've seen him kind of give us pointers. He was kind of in the hallway giving us pointers and stuff. The guy's incredible. You know, his father is an incredible tactician. Actually, there's a video of Khabib and his father wrestling a bit online, and Khabib's father just foot sweeps him and drops him on the ground. I mean, the guy's an expert takedown artist, and I think judo is going to play possibly a big part in this fight. The judo trips and wrestling they're a perfect marriage. You know, if you're great at shooting the legs and you got great upper body attacks, it's just a really, really fantastic combination, and I think Khabib's got that. Next up is YC. What are Khabib's worst technical mistakes in striking, and how can Tony capitalize on them? I think we all saw in the Michael Johnson fight, he didn't move his head in a way that was super impressive. You know, he was good at getting away out of a few shots, but then all of a sudden there was a string of combinations. And Michael Johnson is very, very fast. You know, I've trained with Michael Johnson. I've had him in the practice room. He's been a TriStar, helping us out with George St. Pierre's fight once upon a time when George was fighting a lefty. So we brought in Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson is super fast. He's super technical. You know, he's got very precise skill, strikes, etc. He's a southpaw. He's an awkward. He knows how to find his angles. Yeah, he's got great footwork. He keeps his feet moving all the time. He's a difficult guy. He's a very difficult guy to deal with. And we saw Khabib have trouble early on in round one before he got the takedown. And I think Tony Ferguson saw that. I think he saw that. I expect Tony Ferguson to go southpaw a lot in this fight. A lot. More than he normally does. He's a switcher. He switches every so often. And, even though he switches as he's doing combinations and just temporarily, I think in this fight he might do it more. He might do it more than most of us expect, just because he saw the success that Michael Johnson had. And I think Khabib needs to. I hope he's done a lot of work on his head movement. It's going to be crucial. Because we saw RDA. The RDA fight and the Tony Ferguson fight is actually. I'd like to talk about it for a minute now. I mean, the first round was really, really interesting. No doubt that RDA won round one. No doubt. I can't see anybody give. It was a close round, but he just took off at one point and dominated that round. And I think 9 out of 10 people watching that fight are all going to give it to RDA. No doubt about it. Now, the second round, RDA got poked in the eye. He got poked in the eye, and he started to slide. And Ferguson started to pick it up, and he won. Ferguson won round two. The crazy thing is that RDA, and I thought RDA's eye was a huge issue. And for those of you who like, I train a lot of fighters, and when they get poked in the eye, it happens so much. It's crazy. In UFC, eye pokes happen so much. It's ridiculous. And eye pokes that the commentators miss. I had 3 fighters fight last week in Halifax, and 2 out of the 3 fighters got really badly poked in the eye, and they have to be followed by a doctor, and it's a process of healing, and there's a scratch in the eye, and their eye was messed up and when you get poked in the eye, RDA got poked in the eye in round 2. He started getting hit heavy, and round 3 he came back and won. Now, how did he win round 3 if his eye was poked? Well, when you get poked in the eye, you don't go blind. You just your vision is messed with, your reaction time is messed with, and he got lit up in the later rounds. And I felt that it maybe had to do a lot to. And he mentioned it actually in his post fight interview. He said, "Look, I got poked in the eye," and I don't take that lightly. I think that really changes the momentum of a fight because try to fight with one eye in sparring. Your reaction time is not the same. Your depth perception is not the same. It happened to George in his Jake Shields fight. It made a huge difference in the rest of the fight. Getting poked in the eye is a huge deal. So it's hard for me to gauge what happened in the RDA fight because of that. And RDA clearly was winning round 1. Now, winning round 1 doesn't mean you're going to win the fight. I mean, Tony had to make... he's going to make adjustments, etc., and that could change the momentum of the fight. So was it Tony's adjustments that won him the fight, or was it the eye poke that crippled RDA's chances of winning? I don't know, but I don't take eye pokes off the table very easily. Those are very devastating and fight-changing events, especially when you don't get a break. And if I remember correctly, RDA did not get a break, or did he? I can't remember. Nonetheless, I thought it was a huge factor. He was wincing the whole time. Just hard to gauge. Now, RDA is another guy who doesn't move his head a lot. If you notice, RDA, when he defends, he shells up. He's very true to his Muay Thai style. In the Muay Thai traditionally, not, of course, there's always outliers. There are some Muay Thai fighters like Samat and Kromsak and all these guys. They move their head a lot. Not all of them. Some of them just shell up. Okay, RDA is one of those guys. He moves the head, but not so much. And it didn't work well against Ferguson. Ferguson was able to find the target. He's got those freakishly long arms. Ferguson's reach is, in my opinion, really, really significant. So I think head movement is really important. Now, was Ferguson catching RDA so much because RDA was hurt in the eye, or was it because he's really good at hitting guys who don't move their head a lot? I think it's a bit of both, but if Khabib doesn't move his head often, it could be a problem in this fight, a serious problem. That's why I spent so much time talking about this point. I think this point is huge. Khabib needs to make Ferguson miss by moving his head. If he doesn't make him miss by moving his head, if he's always blocking the punches and not making him miss, if he's not being elusive to a certain degree, I think that long reach will become too much in the later rounds. Haz Duke, how stupid from 0 to 10 is Eddie Bravo for claiming Ferguson can match Khabib on the ground? I would say 0, okay? 0. Khabib is very good on the ground, but so is Tony Ferguson, And of course, Eddie Bravo is the coach of Tony Ferguson. He's not going to say, oh yeah, my guy has no chance on the ground. We don't believe in our system whatsoever, and we're total failures. You can't expect the coach to sound like that. And I don't think that you understand the expertise that Eddie Bravo has. Eddie Bravo is an expert, world-class jiu-jitsu black belt. Okay, so his opinion is the same as a scholar. You have to respect it. Whether you agree with it or not, he's an expert in his field, no doubt about it. Okay, so they believe in their system. They believe that it'll be effective against Khabib. That's why we have the fights, so we can see that, hey, how does wrestling and sambo clash with top 10 BJJ? Not top 10. 10th Planet BJJ. Okay, my mistake. I think if it's early on and dry, rubber guard's going to work well. If it gets slippery, use your rubber guard to get up to your feet. And Tony Ferguson is extremely competent on the ground. I think you're giving him too much heat. Farhad Nouri, does Tony's reach advantage pose any threat to Khabib when he's grappling or in the clinch? Well, his reach is going to help him with those Darce chokes. Okay, I think he has 3 Darce chokes in UFC. When you got a long-armed guy like that, those arm chokes, those anacondas, those Darces, those arm-in guillotines are really, really dangerous. And Tony's proven many times that he's a killer with the Darce. He caught Venata standing up with the Darce. Venata was just bobbing and weaving, and he put him in that Darce, So from standing, he puts the Darce on the guy who's bobbing and weaving. So that Darce is it's primo, okay? So you gotta be careful if you're fighting Tony Ferguson. You gotta be really careful about that Darce. That Darce is no joke. In the clinch, yeah, his elbows and knees are going to be a problem. And I think when you're clinching a taller guy, the taller guy has the advantage in the thigh plum. So if you see Tony Ferguson grabbing a thigh plum and elbowing and kneeing, I think the shorter guy has a less advantage. And when you have the upper body clinch, the wrestling clinch when you're over under chest to chest, I think the trips often work a lot for both guys. So it depends who can bring the waist in. If you can bring the waist in, whether you're the taller guy or shorter guy, it doesn't really matter. If you could break the guy's posture, you could trip him and take him down. And we saw Khabib do that to Michael Johnson in round one. He wrapped him up, tripped him, took him down, and it's all about how you break the guy's posture. But when it comes to the thigh clinch, I like the reach and size on the taller guy. This one is from Clark Wilson. How much of a disadvantage does Khabib have on the feet, and how much of a disadvantage does Tony have on the ground? Thanks, coach. On the feet, I would say if it was a straight kickboxing match, I would give the edge to Tony Ferguson. In an MMA match, it's going to be actually very tricky, a lot closer. Why? Because Khabib is going to be smart, I'm sure, and as he's always been in his entire career, it will be really crazy to think he'll do anything other than what he's done in his entire career, is mix the striking with the takedowns. And I've never sparred with Khabib, but I've talked to people who sparred with him, and they told me he's very heavy-handed. He has a lot of power in his punch. And he did actually catch Johnson. If you look at the fight, he caught him in round one with one good punch. I think it was round two. I don't remember. But anyways, in the fight, in the brief exchanges that they had standing up, he did catch Johnson with one good punch. And I think that's all he needs. If he lands a couple of good shots, it'll open up the takedowns. And if he gets rejected at the takedowns, it'll open up the striking. Again, these things are very hard to predict. Very hard to predict. Tony Ferguson's style of stand-up is look really different in the RDA fight. He started adding some very tricky maneuvers, especially the salsa dancing and that very strange shot. You guys remember what he did? He actually sat on his butt and kind of shot from a seated position, which is weird. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And of course, he does the Minari rolls and all that. So he's a very surprising character, Tony Ferguson, and I expect him to do something bizarre in this fight, something he's never done before. That just seems to be the direction he's taking his style in, which I like very much. It makes me want to tune in to see what other crazy thing he's going to come up with. And when I say crazy thing, I don't mean crazy as in useless. I mean crazy as in surprising, and I want to tune in and watch and learn, what else does he come up with? I like to see the creativity. I really enjoy that. And I think Tony Ferguson is probably the most creative fighter in UFC today. I think, therefore, I am asks, Tony is training in his basement and backyard for this fight. What are your thoughts on that? For me, I don't think the facility is really important. If you have mats and the knowledge, that's really all you need, So he's a very experienced fighter. He's been fighting a long time. He knows what he wants to do. All he needs is the mat space and the ring and just the basic equipment, It's not about equipment. It's not about equipment. Equipment doesn't mean much. Equipment assists training. The bulk of the training is done from here, So I don't think this will make a difference. If he's got his team with him and he's got his game plan and he's putting in the work and he feels clear that this is the right path for him, if he's bringing guys and he's problem solving certain areas, I think he can hit a home run. Is he able to problem solve? The issues that Khabib is going to bring to the table. That's the true question, not where he's training. This one's from Michael Edwards. Do you think Tony's Imanari roll will be effective to Khabib's takedowns? Will be effective at stopping Khabib's takedowns. Sorry, guys, I was looking at two questions at once here. I was checking on the time as well. Do you think Tony's Imanari roll will be effective at stopping Khabib's takedowns? It could surprise Khabib. If he does it at the right time, yeah, definitely. Definitely could surprise Khabib. It surprised Edson Barboza. There was an illegal strike there that changed the momentum of the fight. If you remember, he did the Imanari roll. Actually, he did the Ryan Hall roll, which is a little bit different, okay? He actually did the Ryan Hall roll, but I know what you mean, the one when he rolls on his back and gets into the legs. If I remember correctly, it was the Ryan Hall roll, not the Imanari roll, which is slightly different. Yeah, I think it was a Ryan Hall roll. And he locked up Barboza on the ground, and then he gave him that illegal up kick, which I thought, zapped. It took the power out of Edson a little bit, but it did put Edson in a jam. And it could do the same to Khabib, but it could also backfire What if you do the Minari roll and you just have Khabib on top of you now? Do you really want to take that risk? I wouldn't risk it till later in the fight. I think I would save that one for later. Hello happened to Bisping asks, do you think if somehow Tony is able to keep Khabib off him, Khabib has another path to victory? Yes, I think the clinching and mauling Tony Ferguson on the fence and breaking him, breaking his energy, breaking his spirit, clinching him, bringing him down to the ground, holding him up against the fence, by first mauling him up against the fence could work. Not an easy order though. This one's from the Fight Channel. Khabib 48-47, 47-48, 48-47. Split decision winner. Gonna be a hell of a war. That's a prediction for you all from the Fight Channel. I think it's gonna be very tight. I think it's gonna be very tight, but the winner's gonna run away with the championship rounds. That's what I think is gonna happen. I think the first round is gonna be tight. Second round is gonna be tight. Third round is gonna have a guy who's gonna run away with it in 4 and 5. It might be tight all the way through. I don't know, but I think it's gonna come down to who can figure the other guy out, and once they figure each other out, the guy who's the first to figure out the other fighter will run away with it. Andrew F. How can Tony stop Khabib from passing his guard and establishing his mount arm traps? Do you think the rubber guard will play a crucial role when the fight goes to the ground? Well, I don't believe in just passing the guard. I think you have to smash the guard, and I think Khabib understands that. That's a saying that Frank Shamrock used to say. He doesn't try to pass the guard; he smashes the guard, and I think that's really true in MMA. Of course, when you're in the BJJ practice room, we get so obsessed with passing the guard. It's not that complicated in MMA. You just hit the guy. You don't have to get so crazy and fancy. So it's not going to be necessary for Khabib to pass the guard, and he will pass the guard if he sees it. He'll get to half guard. When he got to half guard on Michael Johnson, he wrapped him up in a one-on-one, what we call a one-on-one, and he devastated him. But he could have done it in a variety of ways. He's just really strong in every position when it comes on top. Again, we talked about the rubber guard, but is Khabib gonna actively look like for passing the guard? I don't think so. I think he's gonna punch, and when he sees an opening, he'll take it. But he's gonna be punching a lot, so it's gonna be a blend of punching and passing. And if Tony Ferguson wants to avoid that, he's gonna have to get back up to his feet. Like I said, I think he's got to use the rubber guard to a certain extent, but when he sees a window to get back up, he'll take it to get up. And that's kind of what he did with RDA. He went to rubber guard actually with RDA, and the second RDA kind of backed off a little bit. He put the feet on the hips and just jumped up to his feet. He didn't mess around with the guard too much. Luis Figueroa. Khabib recently said that he believes this is the best, most significant lightweight matchup in UFC history. Do you agree, and why? This is a fight I'm extremely looking forward to. And like I was saying, I don't think a lot of the casual fans know the importance of this fight. This is like a really, really talented, two very, very talented guys. I mean, one of them is 24-0, and the other one's been on a tear like nobody else in lightweight division. And I think the hardcore fans want to see this fight as badly as they want to see any other fight. I mean, this is really up there. Is it the most important UFC lightweight fight in history? I wouldn't go that far. I would not go that far. But it's up there. It's really up there. I'm super intrigued in this fight. I was really stoked for RDA versus Ferguson. I don't think it broke any records in terms of views. However, I think the hardcore fans know how much talent is in that octagon. And Khabib versus Ferguson. I want to see every Khabib fight. I want to see every Tony Ferguson fight. The fact that these two are fighting each other, to me, is like, it's epic. I got to see this fight. So I think for the hardcore fans, it's up there. For the casual fans, I don't think it's going to break any view records. Unfortunately, because this is an epic battle. This is from All Stare. Who is it harder for training partners to mimic, Tony Ferguson or Khabib? I would say Tony Ferguson is a lot harder to mimic. You can get a good wrestler in there who's a heavy-handed puncher, and obviously not as tenacious as Khabib, but you can do a lot of things a coach can get creative and make it harder for your athlete, to deal with the pressure, like maybe alternate fresh guys on your athlete, etc. So that, even if you have a wrestler who's not as talented as Khabib, it can seem like that because he's not as tired, he's fresher, etc. I mean, there are ways you can scale workouts. However, to mimic somebody like Tony Ferguson, who does such bizarre attacks, is not easy, And if you take a guy who doesn't doesn't have that coordination to do a Minari roll. It's just going to be really slow. So he has a very bizarre style, Ferguson. Bizarre in a good way, and I would say it's the harder of the two to mimic. So not as easy to prepare for Tony. This one's from Henry Yang. What are the elements that make Khabib's grappling too hard to handle? I would say he understands the entirety of grappling. You know, some people are good on the ground, but they know nothing standing up. Some people are good standing up, but they're only really good at shooting the legs. Some people are good at clinching, but they know nothing about shooting the legs. Khabib is good on the ground. He's good standing up, shooting the legs, and he's great with the judo. So he could bounce around between all these three realms. He's a really complete grappler. Whereas a lot of grapplers are very one-dimensional. And it's mind-boggling to me. It's mind-boggling to me that there are still jiu-jitsu schools out there that don't do takedowns. They still think that, hey, we can't learn takedowns. Takedowns are dangerous. Takedowns are hard. I mean, you're deluding yourself. If takedowns are dangerous, then why is it a national sport in several countries? Why do people do it from the age of 5 till adulthood and, you know, never have a serious injury? What is it that convinces you? What evidence do you have that wrestling is dangerous? I mean, it's just an absurdity. Don't millions of people wrestle every single day? Literally, I bet you there are millions of people that wrestle every single day. It is not a dangerous sport. It's a very healthy sport. And, you know, you go to Africa, you go to Iran, you go to Russia, and you go tell them that wrestling is dangerous. They're going to think something's wrong with you up here. And wrestling is not dangerous. Do a proper warm-up. Go to a proper wrestling school. Man up just a little bit. Okay, develop a little bit of athleticism. There are many grappling schools now that do wrestle. Okay, there are many. And the TriStar being one of them, of course. It's ludicrous. It is ludicrous to just do jiu-jitsu. It's just ludicrous. You got to have some understanding of wrestling. What if one day you have to defend yourself in the street? Are you going to jump on your back? If you do, please do not tell them you're a member of my YouTube channel. Please do not tell them you're a member of TriStar Gym. Anyway, this is just not the correct way. Okay, a martial artist has to know the basics standing up. Okay, and do yourself a favor. Learn some wrestling, some judo. It's complementary to grappling. So Khabib is taking it to the next level. He knows wrestling, he knows judo, he knows grappling. You know, he knows leg locks, he knows it all. He does it all. So don't be surprised why he's so effective. You know, look at Damian Maia. You know, he does it all. He does it all. Top game, bottom game, clinching, grappling, whatever. Doesn't matter. Shooting the legs, upper body, trips, all the grappling stuff, got it covered. No gaps. All right. So that's I think is a really important thing for grapplers, the future grapplers to understand. Noel Fielding, we saw Michael Johnson test Khabib's chin early on in the fight and rocked him. Do you think Ferguson's best bet is to keep standing and only use his BJJ as a defense or last resort? Yeah, I agree with you. I do agree with you. Why mess? Why play with fire? You know, Khabib's such a complete grappler. Don't play with fire. Jigaro Kano, excuse me. I got one question off topic, dear Zahabi. Imagine a fight between Damian Maia and Khabib. Who wins? Interesting. I'm assuming you're saying MMA. Very interesting. Very interesting. Now, I'll give a slight edge to Damian Maia. I think it will be an epic battle. Why? Because I suspect that Damian Maia is more complete. I suspect Damian Maia can fight off his back and on top. We've only really seen Khabib on top. So I think there would be takedowns on both sides. But the second Damian Maia gets on top, I think he would run away with it. So I'm a big believer in being good on the bottom, on top, leg locks, passing. You got to not just leg locks. You got to be also a passer. You got to know takedowns, grabbing the legs, and you got to know upper body takedowns. You got to know it all. I'm a big believer in that, and I think Damian Maia is just even more complete. Okay, so that's my answer. All right, guys, we are running out of time. Actually, it's not so bad. I'll do a couple more. Frank Martin, Coach, I feel Tony's frame is too easy for Khabib to get a hold of. Am I right? No, I wouldn't say that, to be honest with you. I think Ferguson has proven time and time again that he's a very hard takedown. He shut down RDA's takedowns, and RDA has very explosive takedowns. Now, again, I do suspect that Khabib's takedowns are superior to RDA's, yes. However, still a very tall order. Taking down Khabib is a very tall order. Taking down Tony Ferguson is a very tall order. This one is from Ian. Who has the better overall clinch game, Tony or Khabib? I would say Khabib. Khabib, more of a complete clincher. However, like I was saying, when it comes down to like the Muay Thai clinch, I'm gonna favor Ferguson a little bit there. However, overall, I think it's gonna be dictated by Khabib in the clinch. If Khabib can turn this into a clinch game, it'll be good things for him. All right, guys, that is all. I'm gonna give you guys my closing comments on this fight. Okay. I haven't made a prediction for this fight because I find this is a 50-50 fight. I do believe there's going to be a struggle early on. It's going to be a real seesaw battle. They're going to be adjusting to one another. But I believe by the third round, one of them will have made adjustments that just won't be copied. They won't be resolved. And I think the later rounds, I think this will go in the later rounds. Now, can there be a finish early on? I would say about 20-25% chance. 20-25% chance one of these two finishes the fight within the first 3 rounds. And it could be a Darce. It could be a knockout punch. It could be a ground and pound finish. A variety of ways. These guys are very diverse. Very, very diverse. However, I do suspect this is going to go in the later rounds. It's going to go in the later rounds like RDA and Tony Ferguson. And it's going to be a grinder. But the last two rounds, I think, will dictate who the winner is. Whoever wins those last 2 rounds, I think, will have won, obviously, the fight. He'll have to have only one of the other 2 rounds, one of the other 3 rounds. However, I think by round 3, we're going to see the breaking point of one of these 2 fighters. I have no idea who it's going to be. I think it's a very, very, very difficult fight to contend. I think the RDA fight is a good staple for us to look at because they both fought RDA and they also both fought Michael Johnson. Now, I don't think Tony Ferguson had hit that level that he's hit today when he fought Michael Johnson. And not to take anything away from Michael Johnson, he beat him fair and square. He was the better fighter that night. But I think Tony Ferguson hit he hit the warp speed after that. Something happened. He had an epiphany or something because he's been fighting at another level since then. Since he fought Danny Castillo, he's been at another level. I find that he's operating at another level. So, again, these are very, very two very, very talented fighters. For those of you who don't know these fighters, tune in and watch 2 extremely talented and well-versed fighters go at it. It's going to be an epic battle. I hope you guys enjoy it. Please leave your predictions about this fight underneath this video. And I want to see who your picks are. I'm really interested. I always like to sift through them and see what you guys think. All right, guys, I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you.